Too many AAA games release and end up being awful, and I've talked specifically about Forspoken a few times because it was a nightmare at launch. It had technical problems, had extremely cringeworthy dialogue and writing, and we figured it failed, but it did even worse than we expected because the studio that made it, Luminous Productions, has now shut down. I have a bunch of things to show off, but before we get into the topic at hand, if you enjoy the content that I create, please make sure to subscribe to the channel and hit the notification bell. Follow me on social media like Twitter or mine so that you can see when my content is posted. And of course, if you do really enjoy the videos and the live streams that I create, please consider becoming a Dark Titan via Patreon or a supporter via YouTube memberships. So I wanted to start off with this DualShockers article. Forspoken studio Luminous Productions has been shut down. Now, we knew that this game did pretty poorly, but we didn't know that it did this poorly. It says the publisher Square Enix has just confirmed via a short press release that its subsidiary studio, Luminous Productions, will be shutting down and its developers will be folded into the larger Square Enix development arm. It says Luminous Productions officially released only one title, the critically mixed open-world RPG Forspoken, which came out about a month ago, so it appears far from coincidental that Square Enix is now deciding to shut down the studio. It's not like this was 6 months after release or a year after release and maybe they started working on DLC and other projects. No. A month after the release of this game just shows how much of a failure this title was, and luckily these developers, or at least most of them from what we understand, are not completely being fired, but they are being shifted around. As it says, the devs will be folded into the larger Square Enix development arm, and these people have already worked on many Square Enix projects. If you don't know much about Luminous Productions, they were a team of veteran developers that primarily worked on Final Fantasy 15, so they've been around the block, they've been with Square Enix for quite a few years at this point, but they folded them into this subsidiary studio, hoping that they would be able to, of course, create maybe some new IPs. That was kind of their focus when they were first announced, and well, we see, Forspoken was their first and their last new IP. It just did not go well. So they did release a full statement on it. It says, an update from Luminous Productions. You may have heard the news that Luminous is merging with Square Enix, and beginning on May 1st, our talented team will join Square Enix to deliver new, innovative gaming experiences to players across the globe. Between now and then, we remain entirely focused on Forspoken. We are currently working on the previously announced patch to address overall game performance, and the DLC in Tanta We Trust is on track for release this summer. Thank you again for your patience and support. So it's good that this game isn't getting completely dropped. I personally did not purchase it. I have really no intentions of playing it, but there are a lot of people who were excited for it and gave it a chance. So I'm ultimately glad that they are not completely dropping this game and just kind of abandoning it just because it failed. They are still going to be working on patches, and we'll see if they actually come out with the DLC. They say they're planning on doing that still, and it's going to release this summer. Only time will tell, but it's at least an okay statement. It also says, when we established Luminous Productions in 2018, our vision was to make AAA games that fuse technology and artistry to deliver completely new play experiences. Having the chance to do just that has been a dream come true. We appreciate you taking this journey with us, and honestly, I was hoping that Forspoken was going to be better than it ended up being. I mean, a year and a half ago when we got the first trailers, it looked okay. Unfortunately, though, they just couldn't fix it in that time, and some of the creative decisions that they made for this title were really awful. Like the cringeworthy dialogue, the main characters were just awful. This game didn't end up coming together. And, of course, people absolutely hated it. I've talked about this many times, but the reviews are not good. Even in the comment section here of them announcing that they're going to be shutting down Luminous Productions, people are just roasting them over this game. People are sharing memes and photos of the main character from in-game that just look awful. It truly shows how bad this game was. People are complaining about technical problems. The newest update on PC has broke the game for me, and the camera and movement are just spinning. People also saying things like, I'm glad you guys are still able to work on games. Hopefully in the future you'll make something better. And heading on over to Metacritic, it just kind of sums up what everybody thought about the game. As you can see, critic score is at a 63, which is pretty generous, even though it's not a great score, but the user scores are much worse. A 1.7 out of 10 for the PC version, and the PlayStation 5 version is sitting at a 3.4. This game had some major technical problems, and also just the content that they created was not really what people were expecting. It is a shame that we saw this new IP release and it ended up disappointing. I want things to come out and I want them to be good, but unfortunately this was just a title that they could not nail. As you can see under the 3.4 user score on the PlayStation 5 version, it's sitting with 359 positive reviews, 91 mixed, and 862 negatives. A generic and boring game. I expected more from this title. The only saving grace is the graphics. Empty, lifeless world, bad writing, last-gen graphics, boring story. What more could you want from a current-gen AAA game? Of course, mocking it. A 2 here. Where do I begin with this mess of the game? Boring NPCs, cringe writing for dialogue, antagonist is absolutely unlikable, hates everyone and everything. Graphics are bland as hell. Poor choice of design to make characters static in dialogue. Where are the enemies? Mostly boring animals. World is empty and lifeless, and spells are cool and traversal is as well, but it doesn't last. There are just lists of issues with this title. This is one of those titles that I'll probably give a chance to when it's like $5 and I can pick it up for basically nothing, but this is just not a game that deserves a $70 price tag. It is unfortunate that this new IP launched and they were not able to capture audiences with it, but as you can see, Forspoken is a massive failure, and even worse of a failure than we initially thought, because they have now shut down the studio behind it. But that's all that I really had to discuss in this video. Let everyone know your thoughts in the comment section down below. If you enjoyed this and found it important and informative, please make sure to give it a like, share it, and subscribe to the channel. And of course, if you didn't, make sure to give it a dislike. I appreciate your support either way, but I will talk to you all again in the next video really soon.